Discrimination has been part of human existence since time immemorial. The society, as time evolves, tries to do away with these harmful practices that promote discrimination. This is what the book, titled You Aren't Black or White, is doing, setting the record straight by ensuring that everyone is judged according to his or her merit. One Human Race, Unequal Societies is the book written by Uche Ononeze, a compendium of information required on the black race, real true stories. It deals with issues of discrimination, tribalism, Afrophobia, and racism, amongst others. This and more will form the discussion on the program. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eukaria Clinton, and this is Nigeria Today. Now, with me in the studio for the conversation tonight is Comrade Uche Eze Ononeze. He's a former SA to the first president of Zambia on African consciousness, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda. Also the executive secretary, Anti-Black and White Label Foundation. It's a pleasure to have you in Nigeria today.
Thank you for having me.
Also with us is Tize Joseph Kwaji. He's the founder and president, Help the Amputee Foundation. It's a pleasure to have you in Nigeria today.
Nice meeting you.
I'll start with you, Comrade Uche Ononeze. Talk to us about this book. You are neither black or white. What actually inspired the writing of this book?
Yes. In fact, what inspired me to embark on this revolutionary journey to uncover the lies that have been purported against humanity for over 400 years, especially against Africans who were labeled to be blacks. One was having the privilege of working with the first president of Zambia, one of the founding fathers of Africa. Shaped my understanding of Africa and the world at large. Secondly, my experience of discrimination at different levels. Family level, we're coming from a polygamous family, a typical African polygamous family, where you have labels like stepdaughter, stepson, stepmother, and so on. I faced discrimination, that's family level discrimination. And then again, we learned from our history book that Nigeria has 3 major tribes, namely Hausa, Yoruba, and the Igbo. I happen to come from the Igbo tribe. So traveling to Lagos for the first time offered me the opportunity to meet with the other 2 tribes, the Hausa and the Yoruba tribe. I also faced discrimination in Lagos. So now at the later stage, I traveled to South Africa, where I faced racism in the hands of the parents of the lady, a Caucasian lady, an European lady. I don't refer to them as blacks anyway, as white. They are Caucasians. So their prejudice towards me made me to call off that relationship with the lady. So now, at a later stage in South Africa, I also face what we call xenophobia. But to me, I call it Afrophobia. It's actually Afrophobia because in South Africa, it's only African nationals that are being referred to as foreigners. They don't see Chinese as foreigners. They don't see Europeans as foreigners, Indians as foreigners, only African nationals. But I can also tell you that the issue of Afrophobia is being blown out of proportion by the Western media. Okay. Because I've lived in South Africa for a long time, and I do know for a fact that majority of South Africans are not Afrophobic.
So, Comrade Uche, in other words, all this level of discrimination put together inspired the writing of this book.
That's what inspired me to write the book.
Thank you very, very much. Now, Tizi, you are of the Help the Amputee Foundation. You're kind of partnering, with Comrade Uche in the launch of the book and all of that. What struck you, most about this book?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Discrimination, also segregation. The black or white issue, and then we talk about those who are living with disabilities. There's no difference as far as I'm concerned. You look at these people today, they look down on them. Especially if we look at the government sector, for instance, there's no provision like where they will work, and there is mostly no employment for them. Why? Because they discriminate the people. So when I look at it, I say, well, this book will go a long way. And the people we are talking about that has these disabilities, they need our assistance. They are our family, they are our brothers. We don't show a kind of discrimination between them. And that's the link between this book, the publishers, and then the foundation. So what we in our foundation intend doing was to look into these people's problems. And that is what inspired us to say that, okay, we need to help these people. Because in the past, people beg, but now the narrative have changed. For instance, these people can produce a lot of things with their hands. I have an experience of an amputee. He provides these local soaps, and people buy in trailers. They need help. So, and also when we see these people, we assist them.
Okay. Now, back to you, Comrade Uche. I went through the book, especially, I know the 6th chapter book, and in chapter 1, you talked about something that I think probably you should, throw more light on it. You said labeling. Okay, the topic, chapter 1 says black and white labeling, a fabrication.
Yes.
Now, you talked about labeling as being, being something that it's of the thinking that if somebody actually labels a product, is either to promote or to devalue that product. Now, talk to us about it, because quite a lot of time we have a lot of labeling, like you rightly mentioned. People say, these people are white, these people are black, and people tend to feel inferior because of their color.
Yes.
Tell us more about this.
Yes, thank you. When you talk about labeling, you label a thing either to promote it or to devalue it. And again, we have a saying that call the dog a bad name just to kill the dog. You have to give the dog a bad name. And what you call your dog is what people will call your dog. So this notion of black and white labeling is incredibly misleading. And if Africans, if we don't do something about it, it will persist till the end of time. And this has cost a lot to Africans. There is psychological issue, there is economic issue, there is social issue. Now, how did we come about this? How did the world come about this black and white labeling? The notion of black and white labeling, the first articulation of this notion came into existence over 400 years ago, when the Portuguese that came to Africa to kidnap Africans, to enslave Africans. They were the first to introduce slave trade. And now, to justify that unspeakable atrocity they committed against Africans, they have to come up with this notion that Africans are less human, less intelligent, meaning that they want to justify that, to show that they are not actually doing such to fellow human beings, that they are different, they are superior. Just like if you have a dog, you can, like, you know, when they own slaves then, they owned them, they were chattels, they were properties. They can do whatever they like to their properties. They can kill those things. So they want people not to feel bad about that, to show that they are killing human beings. They want people to feel like they are killing a lesser human being, an animal, actually. So the notion of black and white label is just a social construct. There is no scientific evidence to support that position. There is no biological evidence to support that. There is only one race, which is the human race. It is either they tell us that they are not human beings, then Africans will now know that we are human beings, you are not human beings. And again, before the Europeans came into contact with Africans, they never referred to themselves as Europeans, as white people. They were French, English, Greek, and Portuguese and all that. They never referred to themselves as white. Now, Africans also never referred to themselves as blacks. We were Igbos, Yorubas, Hausas. You have Pedis in South Africa, you have Zulus, and the rest of them, Ashantis. We never had Africans calling themselves, referring to themselves as blacks. Then who labeled Africans black? That's the question. And what is the motive? What was the motive for that?
Okay. Comrade Uche, thank you very much for that clarification. Now, back to you, Tize. Yeah. Now, beyond the white and black, yes, labeling, like Comrade Uche said, we have, even within us, in Nigeria, we hear, different kind of discrimination and all of that. So how do we get out of this? Now, I ask this because you also mentioned some of the discriminatory practices against the people of your foundation, the amputee, foundation, people that have one disability or the other. So, first of all, why is it that it is still persistent within us, and how can we get out of this?
Thank you so much. First of all, let me tell you about the foundation. Help the Amputee Foundation assist the amputees by providing essential support needed and provide information that will be relevant to start a new life. And what are those things? We talked about medical expenditure, clinical treatment, and then total hips or knees replacement, the provision of prosthetic limbs, and restoration of mobility for them to carry on with activity of daily living, and also grant them means of livelihood. Now, how do we go about it? That is why today we also appreciate the international donors, federal government assistance, to look into this critically, because these people deserves equal opportunities, which I believe is lacking. And that is why we come on board to see to it that those discriminative factors, we should look at it closely so that this will end. This has been for long, as you said, yes, but this is the time that the world have to look into it. Excuse me. Take, for instance, those living with disabilities experience this for no reason, especially when war break out. Somebody did not even know exactly where or how this thing happens. Certainly he lost one of his limbs or hands or knees. You see, so this is the time now we are coming on board to tell the world that we are ready to bring an end to all this discrimination, because whether black or white, or people live on, with amputees, they are all segregations. There's no difference. Because if I am white, or you call me white, I'm not, then you call somebody black, I mean, it's segregation. So the same thing applies to those living with disabilities.
Thank you very much. We'll take a breather here, but the conversation will continue after the break. Don't go away.
Also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different? We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we are looking at one human race on equal societies. Actually, we're talking about the book, You Aren't Black or White. Of course, we have the author here and another gentleman here, one of the partners of the launch of the book. Now, back to you, Comrade Uche. Now, I also went into the book and on your chapter 3, and you told us your personal experience. You know, coming from your family where there were lots and lots of discrimination there. You know, calling of names, labeling, and all of that. But one thing that actually that I noticed is the fact that in all of this, your sister was able to make headway, and even you today you are here with all the discrimination. Now, talk to us. She was able to become a judge. And here you are. Now, talk to us. Even though there's discrimination, even though there was a lot of labeling and all of that, people were still able to make it out of it. How can we as individuals look beyond the discrimination, beyond this labeling, and still make it in life and become who we want to be?
Nobody will get you to feel inferior without your permission. And that is the problem that we have given permission to all this. When the Europeans feel superior to us, we have accepted this baptism of being black. And when you look at the meaning of blackness, what do they have in mind? Like I mentioned, that the devil, that is the Lucifer. Our Bible, that is according to the Bible, Lucifer was the most handsome in being in the heaven until he rebelled against God and then was thrown to the earth. And now, when did Lucifer now turn to black? Meaning that somebody just labeled, called the Lucifer black, and then Africans are black. What is that? That has psychological effects on Africans to say that we share the same this thing with the lineage with the devil, and they are white, and God is white. Now, coming to your question, it's also something that is holding Africa down. We can still, like Africa, you know how people blame the Europeans for underdevelopment of Africa. There is a book called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. I am of the opinion that we should think of how African leaders underdeveloped Africa, rather than talking about how Europeans underdeveloped Africa. Now, what am I trying to say? Singapore, at independence, Nigeria was even rated high above Singapore. But Singapore was able to rise above the challenges of colonialism to now move from third world to first world in less than 3 decades. Now, Nigeria can as well rise above those challenges. Like those labelings, we can still ignore those things, like saying that this is not who we are. We don't allow people to write our stories. They are telling their story at the same time telling our stories. Just like Mogopak, we were told by the history book that Mogopak discovered River Niger, whereas there were people living around the riverine areas.
But we can also change the story. We can change the
because
narrative.
we have to start writing. We have to decolonize the minds of Africans. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressors is the mind of the oppressed. So if we don't decolonize the mind of Africans, there is no how we will be able to get out of this problem. By rejecting, we don't have to internalize this racism, accepting that we are inferior to them, that we have internalized that. For the fact that you see our people even seeing European concept of beauty as the standard of beauty. That is why you see our people bleaching their skin to look like the European. That is mental slavery to me. You know?
But before you go on, Comrade Uche, tell us, what is that one thing that you want whoever picks up this book to read, to get out of this book?
Yes, first we must know that we are from a great civilization, a time when Africans were already civilized, when Europeans and America was not even in the map of the world. Africans, we have great empires like the Nok culture, we have Ibuku, we have the Beninese Empire, or your empire, and a good number of them. So we have to let our people to know that we are from a great civilization. We are not backward the way the Europeans, when they came into contact with us, we were not the way they described us. So this book will help to decolonize the minds of Africans. Like I said, that we have to do something about this by rejecting the baptism of being black and being inferior to these people. For example, you have, when I said we have one human race but unequal societies, we have our Yoruba brother, a medical doctor. While he was in Nigeria, for example, he did not achieve much. But when he traveled to an organized society like America, where he had, the atmosphere was conducive for him to express himself, he was able to perform what they call a medical miracle in America.
Thank you very much, Comrade Uche, which means we can have unity in diversity.
Yes.
As much as possible. Your color cannot determine who
who you are. It's not who you are.
It goes beyond just that. Now, Tize, talk to us. What is your foundation doing to make the people, the members, look beyond their their shortcomings, look beyond the discrimination, and become who they want to be at the end of the day?
Our vision is to provide psychological, sociological, and physical assistance to amputees across Africa, empowering them, that is empowering the people to be independent and self-reliance. But then, this is humans. Vividly, let me just digress into the Bible small. The account of Isaiah says, time is coming where nobody will say he cannot run. And he said the lame one will jump as a stag. And of course, Jesus Christ demonstrated this when he was on earth. He was able to heal people who are blind, who don't have legs. He told them they should throw away their crutches. So I believe that if we humans today can assist those at our own capacity, the greater assistance is coming from God.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been speaking with Comrade Uche Eze Ononeze, who is a former essay to the first president of Zambia on African consciousness, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, who happens to be the author of You Aren't Black or White, One Human Race on Equal Societies. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
And also I had with me Tize Joseph Kwaji, the founder and president of Help the Amputee Foundation. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And thank you for being part of this program. Remember, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also check out this episode and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for being there. I'm your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.